It was called Bad Lads, and it's about Medomsley Detention Centre. And I've spoke previously on the show about my own experiences of being in Medomsley, and I'm so pleased and blessed to welcome Jenny to the show. Jenny Sealey, how are you doing?
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me on this. And I am more than happy to talk about this because it's a crucial part of living history. And the sad thing is, not many people know about it, and mainly only those that really suffered in that detention centre.
When I was looking at the resources that if you've got about this show, I think one of them was a video of a man talking about his experience, and it all came back to me, the bunny hopping, really terrible things that were happening for the sake of, I don't even know what the sake was, a short sharp shock, I think they called it. And it certainly was a shock for me when I walked through the door. What inspired the show, Jenny?
Well, it's a thing that came to me. My friend who is Dr. Susan O'Rourke, is a clinical psychologist, and she was assessing all these swathes of men who've been part of this short, sharp shock, and she was assessing their mental health, to see whether they could stand up in court, but also for compensation. And so many of these men, Medomsley men, has said to Sue, nobody knows about this. Our story needs to be out there. And she said to one particular man, he said, "Do you know what? I know someone who could get your story out there. Are you all right for her to read these assessments?" And so she contacted me and sent through the most harrowing reading I've ever done in my life, I think, of all these assessments. All the names were anonymized. And it's just pages and pages of, as you say, brutality done for no reason other than brutality. And then this was during lockdown. Then when we were allowed out, Sue and a writer that I trust with my life called Mike Kenny and I went up to Newcastle and we met eight of the men, all Medomsley men, but all who'd been there at different times, so they didn't know each other. So the way that they introduced each other was, "I'm Jimmy, I'm Ricky, I'm whoever," but with the time that they were there,
Yeah.
Medomsley, this date to that date, it's part of their brand, it's part of their identity, painful identity. And it's the same with wounded veterans. They will always give their name and the date that they lost their limb.
Yes.
So there's something that it's about owning it, but it's a horrible thing to own.
Yeah, I was there in the summer of 85. And I think what defined that, was it 85? It might, yeah, I think it was. I'm pretty sure, I think Live Aid was on because we missed that. And there was a pool ball went missing from the recreation room. So for about 3 or 4 days, the entire the entire roster of people was pretty much in bunny hop position for 3 or 4 days. And I remember there was one of the officers, they have nicknames, if you will, between the lads. I think there was one of the officers, and I think he was known as Fingers. And I remember when we were all in bunny opposition in the hall, somebody was saying, "Look, tell us where the cue ball is, and you can go back to having your rec." And one of the new entries actually spoke up and says, "Oh, somebody said that one of the officers has took it," and he says, "Which one?" So he says, "Oh, I don't know which one, but he's known as Fingers." Anyway, everybody just sort of like it was really hushed at the time, and he didn't realize he was actually talking to that officer. So he asked him to come up to the front, and he started poking him in his chest. "Why do you think they call him Fingers?" And then he made him get down to do, I think, 10 press ups while the officer was stood on his back. And everybody else is in bunny opposition when we're in there. It was a horrible, brutal place, Jenny. It really was. And like thinking about these things, it takes you back there. It really does, like where you'd have to run the fence, where it'd be like across. Yeah, you'll know about that, do you, running the fence?
All these things are in the play.
Are there?
Also about what happened to the kitchen lads. And
Yes.
I mean, the men have been extraordinary in their storytelling and sharing horrific stuff with me, and all very, very beautifully held together by Sue. Thank God, because all of this stuff is a massive trigger, and I hope you're taking care of yourself
I
in this
absolutely am.
because
I feel blessed, and I'm so pleased that you're bringing this to the public. I think it's such a vital, important stage show. I know there's a lot of stage shows that have meaning, but I think this particular show, it's especially in the north of England, it's something that it's almost vital. It's because you can't heal unless you can recognize the pain, recognize the issue. If you can't recognize that, how can you heal truly?
exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
the scary thing was when one of the men, Jimmy, whose storyline is the through line, um,
Yes.
because we've got one character played by two actors at different ages, so it's like a conversation with yourself in the sense of what you remember, trying to remember all of it because Operation Seabrook brought all flooding back, and now Operation Dearness has just been released a report which I can't seem to get my hands on, but that report is about who knew, and that's something
Mm.
that I talked about. The man walking around the bed, they knew. The doctors at the hospitals, they knew what was happening. The priests knew what was happening, but nobody said anything. It's about constant, constant cover up. And, we know these cover up, they're happening at the BBC, they're happening
Yeah.
everywhere. The
Yes.
people in positions of power who abuse their power, take it out. I mean, these were, you know, the things that these blokes did, and the same with you maybe, they were boys and they were a bit naughty, and what, as you say, it was short, sharp, and shocking. And what was a 3-month sentence has lasted a lifetime, and it will
Yeah.
last till the day they take their last breath.
I was 4 months. I think that was the maximum sentence. Back in those days, and it was a whole different life away. But over the years, I have spoke with one or two people who were also in Medomsley. But he was telling me about this thing about where some of the youngsters who were going in, if they were going in and they didn't have any family around them, if they didn't have sort of if they were coming in from the care system, then they'd be even more vulnerable than people who were going in who actually had family going in to visit them. And it breaks my heart to think of like they're seeing the marginalized youngsters and they're not seeing them as somebody that needs to be cared for. They're seeing them as somebody that the state and the system isn't going to listen to.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what Noble Husband did. He went for the
Yeah,
most vulnerable and destroyed them.
yes.
I mean, when I was watching Jimmy and the other man watching the play, my heart was in my throat, thinking, oh my God, have I got it right? I don't want them, they're sitting there watching their life played out in front of them. I was terrifying, actually. And
Yes.
then, the end of the play, I went up to them at different times, sort of, are you all right? Stupid thing to say, are you all right? And then just the hug, the tightest hug I think I've ever had. Just going, it's all right, Jen, you've done a good job. You've done a good job. But the pain etched in their bodies. And I can
And
remember
asking if
one of the
someone's up,
Leatherby men
yeah.
watching it, just
It,
talking through about hot dog puppet, just
yeah,
and having to comment, and it's just like the pain is still, it's
yeah.
it's been a gossamer. They're brave men, and they're out there. They're doing their stuff now, but they, like raw, so vulnerable and so fragile about what's happened.
Absolutely. Do you think there's still people who've had these experiences who haven't been able to confront and talk about it? Because there's that whole macho thing of just rising above, isn't there?
Oh, there's definitely people that haven't talked about it.
Mm.
Absolutely haven't talked about it, and there have been a few people that in different, not just up in Newcastle, we opened at Live Theatre, but also down in Plymouth and Liverpool and Bristol. So, every venue we've been to, there are people that have come and said, it happened to me and I haven't told anybody.
You're doing it in Stockton at the Ark, and like to be honest with you, the Ark, it's one of the most. I absolutely love the Ark, Stockton. They're so inclusive. They're there for so many different communities. Some of the other places that, yeah, what I'm thinking is if anybody came up in Stockton who had these experiences, because of what the Ark is, like there would be an element of support there for them, I'm sure. So some of the places where you're going and people come up to you, do you have a route or a checklist of to
We
support?
have, we have an access table of which there's an easy read, there's fidget toys, there's ear defenders, and there's
Mm,
signposting. If you've
yeah,
been impacted on these things, a whole load of numbers.
that's
But
brilliant.
also there's myself or somebody from Grey Eye there, and we asked the audience member to write on a card a message for those men who can't bring themselves to come and see it, so that
Yeah,
we could get those messages to all those men that you have been heard. And some people may write that they were there, and if we spot that, then we have that one-to-one approach. Are you okay?
mm,
What can we do to support you? And Sue has been instrumental in offering support as and when it's needed. The ARC are particularly brilliant at, their
yeah,
wraparound care, as actually all of our venues have been
yeah,
quite
yeah.
amazing, because they understand the vulnerability of this, well, the particular nature of this piece. And some people say, why should we come and see it? Because it's not an easy play to watch. But I said, you have to come and watch it. If you care about social justice and you care about the content cover up, you care about the fact that young people who go through this sort of stuff, even now, can't come forward and say what's happened to them because they don't feel they're going to be believed. We've got to change that. So if you care about any of those things, please come and see this and support what I want it to be a big shake-up and change so that any young person, anything's happening to, they could call it when it's happened rather than wait 30 or 40 years, then say something. It
It's so
destroys you
yeah.
when you hold it.
It's so vital, Jenny. If a person goes through that and if they don't deal with it, then as they've gone through their life as a human being, because they're repressing things within themselves, then there's part of them that hasn't been emotionally available to the people that they're bringing up. And I think these things can create chain reactions through generations. So we almost need this culture change. We need to be able to talk about the difficult things, but talk about them in a healing way, not in a tabloid like point the finger and chase the mob way. There's a gentle, I call it the radical middle road, and it has to be by accepting like what we've been through and going easy on ourselves. Stockton especially. I don't know if the figures now, but previously it was the town with the highest rate of male suicide in the UK, and it's and like it's not a title any town wants to have or should have, but sometimes the male thing is about keeping your feelings in and creating a space where big tough men can talk about these feelings and recognize the things they've been through. It's such a vital thing, really is.
I have talked to quite a few men, and I did meet one incredible man who talked about one of his things now on the back of his stuff. He wasn't a Medomsley man, but he's got stuff. He said, now a lot of his work is about how to get men to talk about being a man, about masculinity, about toxic masculinity, to talk about feelings.
Yeah,
So, my Jude, my interpreter, we've been talking about this today, if boys are sensitive and they cry, good. We need to foster that emotional intelligence, and that crying and being vulnerable is not a weakness. Crying and being vulnerable is to know yourself. And if you've been through stuff, you know yourself doubly, but you put a massive guard in front of you.
yeah.
That guard slowly starts to suffocate you.
The
Like
math.
dead, you have nothing to give. And
Yeah.
damage is in, we've got to stop that. Allow, and it's the thing that all the men talked about, and we talk about it in the play, is that the word shame. These
Mm,
men in authority have shamed these young men. No, the shame is on the face of the perpetrators. You are the ones who are just shameful.
yes.
That feeling of guilt, and is it my fault? All that stuff that you're made to feel. We've got to remove that so people can just say what has happened and support them through the healing process. It's never too
Absolutely.
late to start that healing process.
Yeah. I think of myself and so like, it's like as a trans woman who was in there, obviously I was in there way pre-transition. But even me, the reason I was in there, I suppose, when I was growing up, I had all these detachments inside of myself because I couldn't speak about my own personal truth. And then as the years have gone by, it's like, and then the autism's discovered, the gender dysphoria, and it can make sense of it and we can voice it, but nothing can change until we do. And there's a lot of people who end up in roads of life that maybe aren't even their roads because they weren't able to speak and talk, and I think just creating that space where people can talk about the difficult things, regardless of what they are, that can only be a positive thing, not just for this generation, but for future generations.
Yes, in where were we? Liverpool, 45, 16-year-old boys came to watch it.
Mm,
And I thought, oh, I wonder whether they'll be laughing at some of the swearing and the stuff. You could have heard a pin drop.
yeah.
They were the most phenomenal audience.
Mm,
And the actor said, "Oh my God, that was amazing performance to do for them." And when I told the other men in our Jimmy in particular, what my WhatsApp message to him, and he said exactly, if we can show the vulnerability of the act, the characters, that's a really important message. And
that's
to say to
powerful.
those young boys, if stuff like that happens to you, call it. So I hope that maybe schools, anybody teachers listening to this,
Yeah.
bring your young people to see it. It's done very safely. It's unsafe, but it's done safely, if that makes any sense. And it's not depicting anything, but it's truthful to what the men went through. So it's hard hitting. And this play starts with an announcement. This play is short, it's sharp, and it's shocking. So it's an hour and 3, 4 minutes, depending on the actor. Sometimes they add some pauses, sometimes they don't. It's between an hour and 1 to 5 minutes, and it's intense. And
I'm so looking forward to coming and seeing it. I truly am. Can I ask about yourself, Jenny? It's like so yourself in the world of the theatre and all of this type of stuff. Can you tell me a bit about yourself?
just before I do that, one last thing that if any listeners know any deaf people who might be interested to come in, it's captioned and it's full integrated BSL. It's audio described, so it is made as accessible as possible so a real wide diversity of people can see it. And it's in a relaxed environment in the sense that the house lights are up a bit, so if you think, oh, hang on a minute, get out, people can go. And it's not a relaxing subject matter, as we well know. But that's very much me. That's Grey Eye, a company that's based on social injustice and fighting for equality and stories to be heard. And, I've been at Grey Eye now for 28 years, which is a bit, nobody really should stay at a company that long. But it's endlessly new, endlessly fascinating, endlessly challenging. And that's why I've stayed so long. So now this is a whole you know, new narrative for me to explore and how to do it and really challenging to me as a director. So, it's one of those jobs where I, it keeps me moving forward because there's always something new to learn.
Keeps you alive, keeps you fired up.
It keeps you alive, yeah. I'm,
Yeah,
constantly curious, and access and how to make something as accessible as possible is a constant part of that exploration. We don't always get it right at Grey Eye, but my God,
yeah.
we try, we really do.
When I had a look at your website, Jenny, I was thinking, how come I didn't know about this? because it just looks amazing. It really does. You know, the different areas and the different marginalised voices that you proudly represent. I think it's absolutely great.
We did our production of This Is Not For You with all Army veterans a few years ago. I can't remember what year it was. But was it before lockdown? Yeah. Oh, it was a commemorating, it was in 2018, commemorating the end of the First World War. And that was amazing, doing it to the high streets of Stockton. We've
Mm.
also done the Iron Man in Stockton. I've done quite a lot in Stockton.
Oh, brilliant.
I can't come for the last performances there. I'm part of a conference. I'm absolutely gutted because we do have such good we have good allies in Stockton. We've got Vicky Sinner,
Absolutely.
Vicky. And so I'm gutted. So I'm very glad to sort of be there, but through this interview. The tour has been in Newcastle Live, in Plymouth, Bristol, Liverpool. We're now, as we're doing this interview, at Warwick Arts Centre, and our final two performances are we are here this Friday and Saturday.
Because we want as many people as possible there.
I'm a star, thank you.
No,
I
you're the star.
appreciate
And
that.
the men who stood up and spoke their truth, they're the stars. Would you like to?
This is
Yeah,
for
go on.
them.
It is. It is. God,
This play, this play is for you.
bless you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, then.
Gonna make me cry.
Oh,
Right,
thank you.
listen. And whenever I get a guest on my show, we always ask about. I don't know if you ever used to watch Ally McBeal, the TV show. I was a bit obsessed by it. I always go back and watch the final ever episode
Yeah.
just to cheer myself up because it's got Vonda Shepherd in it. But I ask people who'll come on my show if they know their theme tune. And this isn't just a song you like. This is a song which is yourself. So my theme tune would be Seven Sisters by Mary Lou Lord. It doesn't have to be a big million seller. It just has to be something that's special to you. Then I would love to play it after this interview goes out on Sunday.
Oh, blimey, that's a difficult one of the Deafy. But
It is,
when
which makes your answer even more interesting.
no, I'm slightly obsessed with Inspector Morse. So when I'm feeling a bit a bit at odds with the world, I'll do an old, rerun some old Inspector Morse. I quite fancy John Thor. So I've asked for my will at my funeral for the theme tune of Inspector Morse to be played. And my son said, "Mummy, I'm not doing that." And I said, "Well, I'll be dead. You can play what you like." But I love Inspector Morse theme tune.
I'm for the first time in my life, I'm playing the Inspector Morse theme tune on Sunday on the show. I will thank you very much, and I look forward to meeting some of your team this week because I'll be there. I'll be there.
Uh, Take great care of yourself.
Okay, take
Good
care and
looking at
thank
you.
you, Jenny, and pass my thanks on to the team
Bye.
for arranging this at short notice. I really appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Take
Take
care.
care, my love.